I think it's important to study history because history explains why the world is the way it is. I think it, of all the subjects, I think history explains better than many others. When you understand a nation or a region's history, you understand its people, and I think an understanding of history makes the world an easier place to live in.
The face of someone who is politically neutral is the face of a dead man.
The body of an important personality. Here I have what's left of a very important historical figure. He had very good teeth. They're covered in gold at the back.
How and why was Patrice Lumumba murdered 40 years ago? One man who must know is the Belgian colonial official and diplomat, Jacques Brassine.
He was dangerous for us, in the sense that he wasn't open to the kind of solutions we sometimes wanted to apply.
Another man who played a central role in the fall of the Congolese politician was Louis Malière, a colonel in the Belgian Secret Service.
Lumumba chose the wrong side. Of course, he was more or less a communist, and he chose the Russian side rather than the West.
Virginia, USA. This is where CIA agent Larry Devlin lives. He was the man the American government entrusted with the murder of Lumumba.
Lumumba was a danger for both the Congo and the rest of the world, in the sense that he was allowing the Soviets to come in, and we were certainly believed that there was a very good chance that they would take over control of the Congo.
Similar events to that of Guatemala would unfold in the Congo after Patrice Lumumba was elected prime minister, setting a tragic pattern for all of Africa. The post-World War II era gave birth to revolutionary movements across the continent, threatening old colonial powers. As with the French in Indochina, the colonial powers first attempted to crush such movements through violence. Eventually, however, nominal independence featuring corrupt governments became the model of choice.
40 years after independence, the country with its huge Congo River is still being torn apart by civil war.
Colonialism is when one polity, one political economy dominates and conquers another. Neo-colonialism is when the imperial power takes down its flag and a local national puts up its flag, but the economic relations remain the same. That is, the imperialist country still extracts value from the human beings in the colony, but now is done in the name of trade. Neo-colonialism means so-called independence for states, but all that basically means is they have their own flag, sometimes their own airlines, and perhaps their own stamps, and their own coinage.
MI6 story this week. According to Lord Lee of Crondell, Baroness Daphne Park, a very interesting woman, you should look her up. Daphne Park, now deceased, admitted over tea that MI6 organized the killing of Congo's first democratically elected Prime Minister, Patrice Lumumba. Baroness Park claimed that she herself organized the killing, which was carried out by rebel forces, and that he was killed because the West feared he may have been a communist aligned with Soviet Russia. I know, historians and former officials were quick to throw doubts on the claim, and this is my favorite. A former senior British intelligence officer who knew Park stated, quote, "It doesn't sound like the sort of remark Daphne Park would make. She was never indiscreet." Also, MI6 never had a license to kill.
Congo's Minister of Culture is the daughter of the country's first Prime Minister.
Lumumba has become the symbol of nationalism in this country and has become the symbol of the struggle for independence. And since he also died a tragic death for his ideas, sacrificing himself to pursue those ideas to the very end, I think that is what he left us. And also, for years and years, we couldn't really talk about Lumumba. It was practically forbidden here. People need to know about him and what happened. It's their history, which isn't very old, only 40 years. There's this great desire to know the fathers of our independence, but they're not well enough known.
What's interesting is for a long time, people heavily believed that our CIA helped, organize the assassination of Lumumba. Now, she was there, boots on the ground. There's no reason not to believe that our CIA worked with MI6 and said, we're worried about this wonderful revolutionary man who's, again, bringing power to the people. We're worried about him. Can you maybe knock him off? Oh, we got someone there who can help organize it. Fantastic. And then we'll have the other rebels in the Congo kind of knock him off. Oh, great, great. Because it was interesting in the 1975 church intelligence hearings, that's where we actually learned.
We admitted that we...
basically we helped orchestrate that, which there's, MI6 and the CIA works together all the time. So I think that does give some credence to what she admitted. Plus, she's at the end of her life. Why wouldn't she?
I think that's the part where I find it strange that they would say, oh, it just doesn't sound like Ms. Park, when you're looking at someone who's seen everything, who was part of all of these things for the good of her country. I'm sure, she was so committed, and she was very, it was not about money for her, anything like that. She believed that she was doing the right thing. And it doesn't surprise me in the least that toward the end of her life, as she was sharing with people the things that she wasn't so proud of, and the things that she did for her country but felt maybe they weren't great. That's exactly the time you do say something.
Lumumba's house in Kinshasa, or Leopoldville as it was known then. In 1960, when the Congo became independent, it was for a few months at the center stage of world politics. Patrice Lumumba, the country's first prime minister.
The masses who are waiting for us tomorrow want more than just the votes they have obtained today. They want bread and progress. We need to be able to build this nation.
There were headlines throughout the entire summer. 200 days later, the show was over. Roland, Lumumba's youngest son, was not even 3 years old when he saw his father for the last time.
We must know exactly who did it, how and why. We have the right to know. It's our duty to pass this knowledge on to the future generations, to our children and the children of our children.
Lumumba's typewriter, a souvenir from the only friend he had in Belgium, Jean Van Lierde, a rebellious Christian and anti-colonialist. He tried in vain to act as an intermediary between Lumumba and the Belgian government.
Patrice was such a free man, and people found it so original to see a black man who didn't lick the feet of the colonialists that they instinctively perceived him as a threat.
A chance appearance of Patrice Lumumba in the background of an old newsreel. Within 5 years, this unknown post office worker had become the leader of an unstoppable independence movement.
The objective we are pursuing is the liberation of the Congo from the colonial regime and the total emancipation of the country. We are certain that we know exactly where we are going. The independence of the Congo doesn't mean driving the Belgians out or breaking with Belgium. Quite the opposite. We want to form a sovereign government, which will provide a place for everyone in a country where Congolese and Belgians will be able to work hand in hand in the service of the Congolese nation.
In the case of the Congo, an estimated 8 to 10 million people had died via forced labor and murder under King Leopold of Belgium. Now, the Congolese people would be granted independence, or so they believed. The first elected prime minister was Patrice Lumumba, who had been raised in a mud brick house.
L'indépendance, aujourd'hui victorieux. Je vous salue au nom du gouvernement congolais.
Lumumba, the Pan-African with his MNC party, won a surprise victory in the first free elections. The Belgians reluctantly handed over the government to him. His closest rival, Kasavubu, became president of the young independent states.
We are honored to present to the Parliament of the Congo the first Congolese government as follows. Prime Minister and Minister of Defense, your humble servant, Lumumba.
The first clash came at the independence celebrations.
Gentlemen, the independence of the Congo is the crowning moment of the mission conceived by the genius of King Leopold II, undertaken by him with courageous tenacity and pursued with great perseverance by Belgium.
King Baudouin made a speech in which he exalted the role of Belgium, talking about everything Belgium had brought to the Congo. He said we had arrived at a moment when Belgium had decided to grant the Congo its independence, and that this was well and good. I would say it was a classic speech for such circumstances. Kasavubu made a speech thanking King Baudouin. He talked about the Congo and the future. It was a good speech, too. Lumumba hadn't been scheduled to speak. The whole international press was there. Suddenly he got up, walked to the tribune, and made a speech.
Quelle heure est-il? Quand est-ce que la voiture arrive? Je vous répète que c'est impossible, Excellence. Ce n'est pas parce que je préside la cérémonie, c'est parce que je pense aux effets. On va créer la provocation. Mais qui a provoqué le premier?
And every time an Irish soldier was killed, I got beaten up because I represented the Congo, and I was a savage, and they were going to show their approval of Irish soldiers in the Congo, but more important, they were going to teach me a lesson. I'm 10 years old. What do I know about wars?
On me refuse une amnistie qui aurait pu être un geste symbolique pour l'opinion, un geste essentiel pour la cérémonie. Je vous ai fait nommer à la présidence du Sénat parce que je pensais que vous aviez du caractère. J'ai fait une erreur.
Tu n'as pas besoin de lui donner la parole. Le micro traîne dès que Kaza a fini son speech. Patrice le prend. Ils seront bien obligés de rester et d'écouter.
Vous voulez contraindre le roi, le général Viancel, l'évêque? Le roi, le général, l'évêque. Tiens, je l'avais oublié celui-là. Eh bien justement, qu'ils entendent pour une fois une parole vraie. Ça les changera. Ça changera tout le monde. Ah. Bien.
Patrice, tu veux vraiment dire ça? L'indépendance du Congo constitue l'aboutissement de l'œuvre conçue par le génie du roi Léopold II, entreprise par lui avec un courage tenace et continuée avec persévérance par la Belgique. Lorsque Léopold II a entrepris la grande œuvre qui trouve aujourd'hui son couronnement, il ne s'est pas présenté à vous en conquérant, mais en civilisateur. C'est à vous, messieurs, qu'il appartient maintenant de démontrer que nous avons eu raison de vous faire confiance. Ne compromettez pas l'avenir par des réformes hâtives et ne remplacez pas les organismes que vous remet la Belgique tant que vous n'êtes pas certain de pouvoir faire mieux. Messieurs, le monde entier a les yeux fixés sur vous. Que Dieu protège le Congo.
Excellences, mes chers compatriotes, au moment solennel où la République du Congo se présente au monde et à l'histoire, pleinement indépendante et souveraine.
Patrice, c'est trop dangereux.
Tu as corrigé ce que tu as voulu.
Est-ce que tu sais vraiment ce que tu fais? Tu veux vraiment les prendre à contre-pied?
Tu l'as entendu. Tu veux laisser ça sans réponse? Que vont retenir nos enfants de cette histoire?
C'est pas ça qui répond.
Eh ben, écoute-le. Écoute comment il répond.
Sire, la présence de votre auguste majesté aux cérémonies de ce jour mémorable constitue un éclatant et nouveau témoignage de votre sollicitude pour toutes ces populations que vous avez aimées et protégées. Nous ne les décevrons pas.
Congolais, Congolaises, combattants de l'indépendance aujourd'hui victorieux. L'indépendance du Congo, si elle est proclamée aujourd'hui dans l'entente avec la Belgique, pays ami, avec qui nous traitons d'égal à égal, nul Congolais digne de ce nom ne pourra jamais oublier que c'est par la lutte qu'elle a été conquise. Une lutte dans laquelle nous n'avons ménagé ni nos forces, ni nos privations, ni nos souffrances, ni notre sang. Nous avons connu le travail harassant, exigé en échange de salaires de misère. Nous avons connu les ironies, les insultes, les coups que nous devions subir matin, midi et soir parce que nous étions des nègres. Qui oubliera les fusillades où périrent tant de nos frères, les cachots où furent brutalement jetés ceux qui avaient échappé aux balles des soldats dont les colonialistes avaient fait l'outil de leur domination. Tout cela, mes frères, nous en avons profondément souffert et nos blessures sont trop fraîches et trop douloureuses encore pour que nous puissions les chasser de notre mémoire. Tout cela, mes frères, nous vous le disons tout haut, tout cela est désormais fini. La République du Congo a été proclamée et notre pays est maintenant entre les mains de ses propres enfants. Nous allons établir ensemble la justice sociale et assurer que les terres de notre patrie profitent véritablement à ses enfants. Voilà, sire, Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs, mes chers compatriotes, mes frères de lutte, mes frères de race, voilà ce que j'ai voulu vous dire. Vive l'indépendance de l'unité africaine, vive le Congo indépendant et souverain.
Il y a eu, ça a donné un choc.
Lumumba's speech came as a shock. Nobody was expecting it, and it shocked lots of Belgians.
Ça a choqué beaucoup de Belges. Il condamnait systématiquement.
He systematically condemned Belgian colonization.
Il reprenait toutes les terres.
He repeated all the harshest anti-colonial accusations. We'd cut off people's hands, we'd enslaved them, and all that sort of thing.
Combattants de l'indépendance, aujourd'hui
You
victorieux.
who have fought for independence and are today victorious, I salute you in the name of the Congolese government.
À vous tous. Mes
I
amis,
salute all my friends who fought relentlessly at our sides.
nous avons connu les ironies
We have been subjected to insults and sarcasms,
que nous devions subir matin.
to the blows we had to endure from morning to night just because we were Africans.
Nous avons connu que la loi n'était
We learned that the law was never the same according to whether it was applied to whites or blacks.
qui oubliera les fusillades.
Who will ever forget the shootings or the barbarous jail cells awaiting those who refuse to submit to this regime of injustice, oppression, and exploitation?
Nous avons connu les ironies, les insultes, les coups que nous devions subir matin midi et soir, parce que nous étions des nègres. Qui oubliera enfin les fusillades où périrent tant de nos frères, ceux qui ne voulaient plus se soumettre au régime d'injustice, d'oppression et d'exploitation.
Lumumba's speech, as well as his belief that the Congo's vast mineral wealth should belong to the people who lived there, set off alarm bells in the West. Under the auspices of the UN, the Belgians insisted on retaining a strong military presence in the country. Lumumba traveled to the United States and asked for help.
C'est avec un réel plaisir que je me trouve aujourd'hui aux États-Unis, pays de démocratie et de liberté.
Lumumba's overtures were rejected. Rebuffed by one superpower, he turned to the other. The Soviets gave only token support, but Lumumba's act of defiance was enough to sign his death warrant. After South Africa, the Congo had the largest working class in sub-Saharan Africa. If the Congo achieved real independence, it would pose a direct threat to Western business interests across the continent.
That was really the decisive moment when he made that famous speech on the 30th of June 1960. A lot of people then said he signed his death warrant with that speech because the Belgian government didn't want him. Not just because of the 30th of June speech, but because he was Patrice Lumumba, and he didn't fit in with the hopes of the Belgians and Americans and many people in business.
Tu n'as jamais rien su de cette nuit au Katanga. Personne ne devait rien savoir. Leur ordre de mission était clair. 3 corps à retrouver dans la savane et tout faire disparaître. Pas de sépulture, pas de lieu de pèlerinage.
Are now the features of a freedom which many believe to be premature. Whites are fleeing mobs who have been whipped up to anger. The Belgian government is sending paratroops into the Congo.
Congolese have been massacred by white people in the Congo for years and years and years. And if the shoe is now on the other foot, only thing I can say is it's like chickens that always come back home to roost.
Do you personally feel, though, that there's some shame or involvement here or some guilt associated with the killing of other human beings?
I think that the white people should be ashamed of the deplorable situation that has been existing in the Congo, which is not the fault of the Congolese, but which is the result of instigation by European powers who are fighting each other over the mineral wealth of the Congo. And now to make it appear that the Congolese themselves are criminals or brutes because they're reacting to these injustices that they've been victimized by is again ducking the question.
In the copper-rich province of Katanga, Lumumba's opponent, Chombi, called on the Belgians for help too in order to disarm the troops. Less than 10 days after their withdrawal, colonial soldiers triumphantly returned to the former colony.
Chombi is the murderer of Lumumba, who was the rightful prime minister of the Congo. Chombi is the man whose forces fought against the United Nations forces and against the United States, and despite this criminal past of Chombi, now the United States is backing Chombi, who has hired South African mercenaries who are hired killers to disrupt the peaceful efforts of the freedom fighters from Stanleyville to make the type of country there that they want. And it is this American support of Chombi, actually, that's at the root of the whole problem.
Chombi, known locally as Mr. Cash Register, declared himself president of the separatist province. But he was a president installed by the Belgians.
Elizabethville was above all a center for important financial interests. That was where the Union Minière, the mining company, was. Obviously, Belgian financial circles also wanted to keep their hands on that.
Bien entendu, mais je mets en garde le gouvernement belge contre toute tentative de profiter de la situation pour faire une intervention militaire ou encourager la rébellion. Seul le travail nous permettra de prospérer. Ceux qui ne veulent pas le voir et qui sabotent nos efforts seront considérés comme des ennemis du peuple.
One of the major figures in the breakaway state was the Minister of Finance, Jean-Baptiste Kibwe.
As soon as we took over, the mining company, l'Union Minière, continued to export copper, and the revenue from this went into the Katanga National Bank.
Tshombe's chief aide was a Belgian lawyer, Jacques Barteloos.
The mining company now paid its taxes and license fees to the Katangan government, not to Leopoldville. So the Katangans had plenty of money, and this enabled them to equip the Katangan gendarmes and buy weapons and armored vehicles. There were arms merchants continually visiting Tshombe's home to try and sell him arms.
Tshombe's white mercenaries defending the free world in the heart of Africa soon became known as les affreux, literally the dreadful men.
Le Katanga, notre belle et prospère province, une des principales sources de notre richesse nationale. C'est quelle heure à Elisabethville? Même heure qu'à lui à Bure?
Je ne sais plus. J'espère seulement qu'Elisabethville sera notre dernière étape. 10 jours en tout. Je ne supporte plus l'avion. Le Congo est trop grand pour nous.
Dites pas ça, Monsieur le Président. Le Congo est grand. Il exige de nous de la grandeur. Il n'est pas trop grand. Il dit sécession, il dit trahison. On descend.
Monsieur le Président, la tour de contrôle d'Elisabethville nous refuse l'atterrissage.
Je répète, vous n'avez pas l'autorisation de vous poser. Ordre du gouvernement katangais.
Quel gouvernement?
Ça y est. La sécession est entrée dans les faits.
Nous pourrions envisager une visite du président Kasavubu, mais il n'est pas question que les traîtres Patrice Lumumba mettent le pied sur les sols katangais.
Je le reconnais, c'est Moulongo. Amorcez l'atterrissage.
Je ne peux pas.
Faites ce que je vous dis.
Je ne peux pas. Ils vont mettre des camions sur la piste. Monsieur le Président, il faut faire demi-tour. Il n'y a pas d'autre solution.
On ne sait pas se méfier de Tshombe. Oui.
Tshombe n'aurait jamais agi seul. Ce sont les Belges qui l'ont encouragé.
There was anger and disappointment at the breakaway in the Congolese capital, Leopoldville. The flag over the Belgian embassy was hauled down, and the ambassador of the former colonial power sent home.
The plot was all ready and the plans prepared. They intend to impose a government against the wishes of the people. Belgium wants to balkanize this country, to break up the Congo.
Lumumba asked that American troops come in to replace the Belgians and throw the Belgians out. They talked to Ambassador Timberlake, who realized that if American troops came in, almost certainly then Russian troops would come in. So Timberlake then recommended that instead of asking the United States, that they ask the United Nations to send troops to resolve the situation.
At the request of the Congolese government, the UN has decided to replace Belgian troops with United Nations forces. In this way, the US representative Cabot Lodge has opposed Soviet attempts to make propaganda capital out of the Congo crisis.
C'est bon pour les civils. Pour les militaires, il n'y a que la discipline. La discipline. Avant le 30 juin, vous aviez des officiers blancs. Après le 30 juin, vous avez encore des officiers blancs. Peut-être que les politiciens vous ont raconté autre chose. Ils vous ont menti. Moi, je vous ai toujours dit la vérité. Et si vous ne l'entendez pas, je vais vous l'écrire. Après l'indépendance égale avant l'indépendance.
Lumumba and his government had called for UN troops in order to end the Katanga secession. But when they arrived, they took no action against Chombi and the separatists.
L'humiliation n'allait plus s'arrêter. Ils étaient prêts à tout, même sacrifier leurs propres compatriotes. Il fallait un coupable pour expliquer cette catastrophe. Il fallait faire taire le rebelle, quel qu'en soit le prix.
The Indian general Rikier went to the Congo as military advisor to UN Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld.
Unfortunately, Mr. Lumumba and Mr. Kasavubu, or for that matter any other Congolese leader, which belonged to one side or the other, their impression was totally wrong of how they were to use the UN. They expected the United Nations to behave as a big power like the United States does when it goes out to help a country. That they use force to help a country, they provide arms, equipment, intelligence, well, the United Nations is not designed for that purpose.
As the population celebrated the arrival of UN troops in the Congo, the Soviet Prime Minister Nikita Khrushchev was holding out prospects of help from the Red Army for the Lumumba government.
Est-ce vraiment nécessaire, cette photographie?
Ne vous inquiétez pas, monsieur le Premier ministre, on prend tout à notre charge. N'oubliez pas, il en faut dans chaque ministère, chaque école, chaque magasin.
Excusez-moi.
Oh non. On n'y arrivera jamais, ça fait...
Donc tu confirmes?
C'est la guerre, Patrice.
L'ONU parle de génocide.
L'ONU est manipulée par les Américains.
Manipulée ou pas, il y a bien une centaine de morts, oui ou non? On vous a demandé de reprendre le Casta et pas de remettre toute une région à feu et à sang.
Lumumba tried to use the Soviet embassy as a means of exerting pressure on the Americans. Without any official invitation, he traveled to the USA and asked for support against the Belgian intervention. But the jungle premier, as he was pejoratively called, wasn't even received by the president.
J'adresse au peuple américain tout entier.
I wish to convey to the entire American people a message of friendship from the Congolese people, who have great faith in you. We want you to understand us and help us. And we want you to know that when your technicians and teachers come to our country, you will find in the Congolese people friends and brothers.
African leaders were new to us. A man such as Lumumba did not have the sophistication or the polish, if you will, of the normal German or French or Belgian, English, what have you, diplomat. He tended to say things very bluntly, and which upset, I think, the Western nations.
La reine Elisabeth de Belgique est présidente des amitiés belgo-russes. Est-elle communiste? Lorsqu'il parle contre Lumumba, sachez que Lumumba n'est qu'un bouc émissaire et la bête noire. Ce n'est pas Lumumba qu'il vise, mais plutôt vous et l'avenir du Congo. Cher frère, je fais appel à votre sagesse, à la sagesse Bantu. La situation est plus grave que vous ne l'imaginez. Unissons-nous, car vous êtes capables de sauver ce pays. Oublions tout ce qui nous a divisés jusqu'ici.
The international success of the Katanga secession led to the breakaway of another province. The diamond-producing region of South Kasai withdrew from the central government. Lumumba decided to stop the disintegration of the Congolese state without the help of the West. The major problem for any offensive was how to transport his troops to a front 1,000 kilometers away.
Since we were not giving him the aircraft, he managed to get some aircraft from the Russians.
This military operation was relatively successful, but Lumumba had signed his own death sentence a second time. Now it was the Americans who wanted rid of him.
The United States deplores the unilateral action of the Soviet Union in supplying aircraft and other equipment for military purposes to the Congo. The Soviet action, which seems to be motivated entirely by the Soviet Union's political designs in Africa. I must repeat that the United States takes a most serious view of this action by the Soviet Union.
At around the same time as Eisenhower delivered his judgment, articles began appearing in the New York Times, painting Lumumba as a communist and Soviet stooge. They published a fraudulent claim that Lumumba had received $200,000 from the Belgian Communist Party, and without a hint of irony, referred to the first democratically elected leader of the Congo as a dictator. The CIA assassination plot got underway when Sidney Gottlieb, who headed up the psychochemical department of the agency's mind control experiments, carried a vial of poison to the Congo via diplomatic pouch. The plot was abandoned, however, in favor of a hit sponsored by the Belgians in collaboration with Congolese military officials.
I had a little man at the airport, and if a white person got off a Soviet aircraft, he was considered Russian. Now, he could have been Czech, he could have been Bulgarian, because they had some Bulgarians and some Czechs there. But more likely he was right. And the man would go 1, 2, 3, 4, cross, 1, 2, 3, 4, cross. And at the end of the day, we would count these figures. So it was an approximation when I say 1,000. But they came in, and we were afraid that they would slowly take over the levers of power.
Were you in contact with the Americans?
Yes, my contact was Larry Devlin. We got on very well and we did some things together. But I think the Americans wanted to liquidate Lumumba.
Une simple révolution pacifique. Nous allons faire appel à tous les techniciens congolais neutres et aux techniciens étrangers choisis par nous-mêmes pour sauver le pays du chaos. Vive le général Mobutu! Et là, pas trop vite. Pouvons-nous dire où se trouve Lumumba? D'accord, les Belges. Lumumba sera-t-il jugé?
Oh yes, Colonel Malière was in the defense section with, he was a highly respected officer. He somehow understood Congolese probably better than 98% of his colleagues, and certainly better than I did.
One day it was agreed with our people that we would put listening devices in Lumumba's office. The Americans provided the equipment and the Belgians installed it. We intercepted all of Lumumba's telephone conversations. The big difficulty was that he often spoke in Tetela, and we had to have a translator. That was the biggest difficulty.
Was this useful?
We knew in general what he was saying and what he was doing.
Oui. Ah, Thomas, c'est toi. Oui, c'est décidé. Il faut briser cette situation. Oui, je sais. Je ne peux pas rester ici enfermé en résidence surveillée toute une éternité, alors qu'ils essayent de massacrer mes partisans un à un. Tu es en sécurité, toi? Oui? Bon. Écoute. Un de nous doit se sacrifier. Ils vont probablement finir par m'arrêter, me torturer, me tuer, qui sait. Ce sera un sacrifice pour le bien du peuple congolais. Très bien, Thomas. T'inquiète pas. Oublie ce que je viens de dire. Je parlais pas sérieusement.
Through a series of press conferences, Lumumba tried in vain to win over world public opinion. He exposed the foreign intervention which was attempting to undermine the new independent Congo, but the press branded him as a threat to world interests and set about the assassination of his character. Reports from the German correspondent Peter Scholl-Latour were typical of the style used in the Western press.
Is it his Mephistopheles beard, or those eyes rolling like billiard balls behind his spectacle lenses? There's something terrifying about this man. He has the head of an African Lenin.
Lumumba's daughter, Juliana, was present at many of the press conferences.
I was with my father all the time. Often I was the only person allowed to be with him when he was working on his speeches. So I'd sit down quietly and just be with Dad. In the Belgian press, he was shown as Satan, with horns and everything, the archetypal communist. And all this just because he said things which corresponded to the aspirations of the majority of the people, but which were absolutely not part of the mindset or the objectives of the colonial power at the time. He wanted the black people, the Congolese people, first and foremost, to be worthy of their own culture. He had faith in them. We want to be independent, he said, but on terms of equality and respect. I think that's why people always said he was intransigent.
Are you a communist, Mr. Lumumba?
It always makes me laugh when I'm asked that question. I'm not a communist at all. You know, I've often been presented as a communist, as anti-white, anti-Belgian, as someone destructive. Absolutely not. I'm simply a nationalist leader, fighting for an ideal. I'm not a communist at all, and never will be.
American agent Larry Devlin received $100,000 from the CIA, along with instructions to make the elimination of Lumumba the priority goal of his covert action.
Il n'y a pas de bac.
On abandonne les voitures, on passera en pirogue.
Et l'autre côté, comment on fera?
Il faut voir d'autres voitures. Si on n'en trouve pas, on ira à pied.
Non, Patrice, je ne vais pas aller la première.
Vite, Patrice!
Moi, je ne risque rien.
Ils sont derrière nous!
J'atteindrai le bac.
Allez, on y va.
Yes, I received a cable that someone whom I would, a senior officer that I would know by sight, would arrive and give me specific instructions. And that was very surprising, because why were they sending someone there to give me instructions when they could send them by cable? I had no idea what the instructions would be.
Je retourne.
Ne fais pas ça. Tu te l'interdis, c'est de la folie. Tu dois aller à Stanleyville, c'est ton devoir de militant.
Je vais laisser se venger sur ma femme et sur ma fille. On dit après que j'ai laissé faire ça.
C'est du suicide, Patrice.
Je vais leur parler, ils sont pas nombreux. Ils m'écouteront.
C'est la folie.
In Belgian Secret Service telegrams, there was talk of a mysterious Operation Barracuda and of the imminent arrival of 2 children.
Eh bien, je vais vous dire sincèrement.
I must say quite sincerely that I have no recollection of the codename Barracuda at all.
And the 2 children, what was that?
The 2 children? No. Yes, I remember now. They sent 2 people, an aide and Major Luz.
Et le Major Luz, ils les ont envoyés.
They sent both of them. Yes, it must have been those 2 to talk to me about the Lumumba affair, and they were in favor of eliminating him.
Eux étaient plutôt pour la suppression.
I remember being totally surprised when he instructed me that they wanted to get rid of Lumumba. I never heard of the agency being involved in such a thing before.
Et ils voulaient m'envoyer un tueur de crocodile.
They wanted to send me a crocodile killer to get rid of Lumumba. That's what they came to propose.
C'est exact. Ils sont venus me proposer ça.
Substance to eliminate Lumumba was toothpaste that was poisoned, which would result in an illness very similar to polio or something like that, as I remember.
Je n'ai jamais
I never opposed it. I always let them get on with things. But I let the Congolese do it. I think there were lots of people who preferred him out of the way for good.
It's been denied that President Eisenhower issued such instructions. I have no idea whether he did or did not. At the time, I assumed that he had. And I have a feeling that something must have been said that was either he ordered it or he was misunderstood, but certainly I believed it at the time, that it was a presidential order.
The red flag came down when the Congolese army in Leopoldville overthrew the ultranationalist Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba and expelled Moscow's diplomatic representative from the country. With Soviet documents, fly sheets and propaganda brochures burned, communist intrigues against the United Nations in the Congo have for the time being been stopped. A 30-year-old colonel, Desire Mobutu, has become the new strongman of this young republic, with the support of the majority of the Congolese army.
Je ne suis pas en état d'arrestation, mais la résidence du Premier ministre est encerclée.
Je tiens seulement à assurer ta sécurité, Patrice. Tu sais qu'il y a beaucoup de gens qui voudraient ta peau.
Entre ceux qui veulent ma peau et ceux qui me veulent du bien, je ne sais plus qui je dois redouter le plus. Je te demande de retirer ces hommes.
Tu me le demandes ou tu me le redonnes?
Je te le redonne!
Si j'écoute qu'à ça, tu n'es plus Premier ministre. Si je t'écoute qu'à ça, tu n'es plus président. Qu'est-ce que tu fais à ma place?
Je te connais. Tu n'as pas pris cette décision tout seul. Qui est derrière toi? Qui?
Taking Lumumba's place was Joseph Mobutu. He looted an estimated $4 billion during his time in office. More importantly for the West, he allowed the continued looting of the Congo's vast mineral reserves by Western corporations.
Mobutu had in fact been a trusted ally of Lumumba, who had appointed him head of the army only a few weeks earlier. He now declared he had deposed the Prime Minister. The officer who led the putsch was in fact the West's secret weapon against Lumumba. One of his most influential advisors was the Belgian counter-espionage
Around the
officer,
same time as
Colonel
Eisenhower
Marier.
delivered his judgment, articles began appearing
Mobutu was
in the New York
pro-Western,
Times,
that's for sure.
painting Lumumba
But
as a
apart from
communist
that, he
and
was also
Soviet
manipulated by
They
the
published
Americans.
a fraudulent claim that
dealing with the
Lumumba
United
had received
States and having
$200,000
American
from the
support.
Belgian Communist Party,
And I was the
and without a hint of
person
irony,
with whom he
referred
worked.
to the first democratically elected
Mobutu's
leader
putsch
of the
was the
Congo
prelude to a
as a
dictatorship lasting more than 30 years,
CIA
from which the country has
assassination
never
plot
recovered.
got underway when Sidney Gottlieb,
But
who
Mobutu
headed up
didn't
the
do it on his
psychochemical
own.
department of the
He was
agency's
helped.
mind control experiments,
They came to take
carried
this
a vial
country's
of
wealth.
poison to the Congo
They
via
came to get
diplomatic
contracts with him so they could fill their pockets and to get bigger and bigger
The plot
royalties.
was abandoned, however, in favor of
They
a hit
supported him for
sponsored
more
by
than
the
30
Belgians
years.
in collaboration with
The
Congolese
Americans,
military
the
officials.
Belgians, the French, and the big international companies. They didn't come to develop the country, they came to make a profit. And they made huge profits.
Pour sortir de l'impasse, l'armée congolaise a décidé de neutraliser le chef de l'État, M. Kassavubu, ainsi que le Premier ministre, M. Lumumba. Il ne s'agit pas d'un coup d'État militaire, mais d'une simple révolution pacifique.
Y aura-t-il des élections libres? Monsieur Bono, est-ce que ça proche? Arrêtez les politiciens et les parlementaires, un coup d'État.
Aucun militaire ne prendra le pouvoir. Aucun. Je vous répète, ce n'est pas un coup d'État.
Et les Américains dans tout ça?
Mais une simple révolution pacifique.
Nous allons faire appel à tous les techniciens congolais neutres et aux techniciens étrangers choisis par nous-mêmes pour sauver le pays du chaos.
Vive le général Mobutu!
Et là, pas trop vite.
Pouvons-nous dire où se trouve Lumumba? Avez-vous l'accord des Belges? Lumumba sera-t-il jugé?
Mobutu's move against Lumumba was not only supported by Western secret services, but also by the United Nations.
It was $1 million, roughly, which was UN money, which was used to pay the troops.
Using troops paid by foreign powers, Mobutu put Lumumba under house arrest. UN forces also surrounded the residence of the deposed Prime Minister to protect him, but also to eliminate him politically. Lumumba broke the siege and tried to take his family on the 2,000-kilometer drive to Stanleyville, where a pro-Lumumba counter-government had been formed. But his very popularity was to become his undoing.
We understood it was to be like a normal, official trip. So we mobilized the population in the usual way.
He made a speech in every village. Even in those villages which didn't support him, he would make speeches. He was caught in a trap of his own making. He wanted to win people over, and he was quite capable of doing so. But this dragged out the journey, and they were able to catch up with him and put him in prison.
Late in the evening of the 1st of December 1960, Lumumba crossed the Sankuru River by boat and appeared to have reached safety. But the ferry boat bringing his family also brought his pursuers. At the last moment, Lumumba managed to escape by driving to a UN position. The UN troops from Ghana had always been on his side, but this time the door stayed shut. Any intervention on behalf of the fugitive had been explicitly forbidden by headquarters.
We had only agreed to provide him protection in the house. If he wanted to go out, then he had to tell us he's going out, where he's going, how he's going. Then we would have to decide how we are going to protect him.
Two days later, at Leopoldville Airport. Mobutu had told the international press to come to the airport, Photographers and camera crews from the West were to witness the abuse and humiliation of the great Lumumba.
We took him to Ticeville, where he was guarded by Bobozo. And then one day we said he was trying to escape, and that's when Ndaka took things in hand to get him sent somewhere else.
Victor Ndaka had once been a close friend of Lumumba's, his representative at the head of the party. Now he became Mobutu's security chief, responsible for capturing his former party comrades.
On the 13th of January, there was what you would call a mutiny at the military camp. The army was divided. There were pro-Lumumba and anti-Lumumba factions.
General Bobozo said to Mobutu, "I can't guarantee his security anymore. You'll have to take him off my hands. Put him wherever you like, but he must leave this camp because I can no longer vouch for the troops stationed in Thizville."
We alerted everyone we could and said, "Be careful, he's quite capable of coming back to Leopoldville with the tanks from Thizville, because he was capable of stirring up the troops and getting them behind him."
Everyone was given their assignment. Mine was to go to Ticeville, get the prisoners, and from there, take them to Moanda. It was only when we were in the plane that Lumumba realized what was really going on.
Two of Lumumba's close political allies were also on board, Ministers Mapolo and Okito, who were also to share his fate.
I wasn't interested. I washed my hands of it, and that was that.
The destination of this carefully planned trip was Katanga, where Lumumba's deadly enemy was waiting for him.
I was told to ask Jombe if he would take delivery of the parcel.
Malia used the Belgian Secret Service's radio connections for his secret message. But who did he speak to?
Commander Verdict. He was the one who answered.
The first message, which I received at the end of the morning, was a message which had clearly come from Colonel Marlière, saying, "Request agreement from the Jew to receive Satan."
Yes, those were code words. We didn't speak openly. The Jew in my coded language was Jombe.
And Satan for Lumumba. And let me point out that these code words were chosen by Colonel Marlière and not by myself.
For us, Lumumba was Satan, and he did look satanical. You just have to look at those eyes. And Jombe was the Jew.
Why?
Mr. Cash Register.
Even the government in Brussels sent a telegram requesting that Chombe take charge of the prisoners. So the aircraft landed at Katanga's airport.
We were there when Lumumba and the two others got off the plane, and it wasn't a pleasant sight.
They put the three of them in a jeep, and that was when I realized it was Lumumba, who I had already seen before independence.
They had shaved his beard off. He was tied up and all that. There were three of them.
They struck me, Lumumba anyway, as very dignified, or shall we say, fatalistic.
It's difficult to describe. They were being propped up, but they seemed very tired.
The airfield was occupied by Swedish UN troops. They were there and saw the whole business.
The Swedish unit was in the control tower. One of them, Sergeant Kellgren, made a very brief report describing the arrival of the prisoners.
Yes, we did have a report on his arrival, and immediately instructions were given that you must watch him, you must insist that no bodily harm is done.
The prisoners were taken to an empty private house belonging to a Belgian settler not far from the airport. It was here at the Villa Brouet that they were guarded by military police under Belgian command. There were many witnesses to the events which followed.
I saw several members of the Katanga government, including the Interior Minister, Mr. Monongo, who looked Lumumba over from head to foot and back again, and then spat on the ground. When I saw that, I said to myself, Lumumba has got his death sentence.
After the visit from the Interior Minister, Monongo, we were ordered to shoot at the UN troops if they came. And if we couldn't prevent them getting in, we were to kill Lumumba.
Didn't you feel any pity for him?
Why should I? I've no pity for him. He insulted our king.
Didn't it upset you a bit?
Upset? A man's death doesn't leave you indifferent, but upset? No.
I said to Chombe, his fate is sealed. Lumumba's fate is sealed. It's as sealed as if he was already dead. I'm sure of that. And in that case, they may as well execute him at Bakwanga as at Elizabethville.
But there he was in the hands of the blacks. They were in the hands of the black government.
So the discussion was not about whether to save Lumumba, the only discussion was about where to kill him.
Yes. To put it in plain words, that was the issue.
They wanted to kill them all. They said, if we don't kill him, we'll have more trouble.
It was Monongo and Kibwe, the hardliners in the Katanga government, whose point of view won the day. And their line was, Lumumba's arrival in Katanga means he must be put to death. The government met and decided Lumumba would be killed. They had a lot to drink during that cabinet meeting, and they had a lot more to drink afterwards.
They took them to the presidency, to Chombe's residence. It was already evening, about 8 o'clock, 8:30, and from the presidency they went to the place where they were executed.
And this is where the execution took place. They stood the condemned men up against that tree.
Why didn't the Belgian officers refuse to take part?
Oh, that's a good question. The Belgian officers were on detachment to Katanga. They carried out the orders they received from the authorities they had been seconded to.
We dug a hole and we put them in front of it. We shot them and they fell into the hole.
This is the tree they were stood up against. And here are the famous bullet holes. Here you can see them a bit better.
Tu n'as jamais rien su de cette nuit au Katanga. Tu ne raconteras pas tout aux enfants, n'est-ce pas? Ils ne comprendraient pas. Tu leur diras simplement que j'étais arrivé 50 ans trop tôt. Tu leur diras que ce que nous voulions pour notre pays, d'autres ne l'ont jamais voulu. Ma chère Pauline, lorsque ces mots te parviendront, je ne serai plus en vie.
Bonjour.
Tu diras à mes enfants que l'avenir du Congo est beau et qu'il attend d'eux la reconstruction de notre dignité. Tu leur diras que tout au long de notre lutte, jamais je n'ai douté un seul instant du triomphe de la cause pour laquelle mes compagnons et moi avons donné notre vie. On va les chercher.
Monsieur Lumumba.
The bullets, of course, went right through their bodies before lodging themselves in this tree.
For me, the business with Lumumba started the morning after the execution. The man in charge, the Belgian, called me into his office and said, "Okay, are you going to take care of this?" And I said, "All right, but what do I have to do?"
The Katangans denied he was dead. They denied everything. It was absolutely crazy.
We cut the bodies up into pieces. They were buried twice. We cut them up into pieces, we burned them, and we also had huge quantities of acid, like you have in car batteries. So most of each body was dissolved. And then the rest, we burned them. But we had to do all this without the Black Sea, in the middle of the forest. That was a problem too. There were two of us, just the two, and we had to do all that on our own. Get the three bodies out of the ground, cut them into pieces and destroy them, and nobody was to know about it. And nobody did. Nobody knew what happened.
There were all kinds of stories about Lumumba's death. He was supposed to have escaped, stolen a car, been killed by some villagers who recognized him. But nobody believed any of that for a second.
Even the Belgian Minister for Africa, one of those pulling the strings behind the scenes, contributed to the cover-up with false telegrams.
I went there the next day. As soon as I arrived at the airport, I was told he was dead.
I wonder how you reacted to this news. What was your reaction?
Oh, I said, good riddance. What else would you expect me to say?
For you, it was the kind of solution of all problems?
Yes.
He was happy.
Happy, not perhaps the word. You're busy. Here's one problem gone, now what's the next problem?
3 weeks later, the story was Lumumba and his accomplices massacred by villagers. Just one of countless lies. The whole truth only came to light 10 years later. None of the murderers or the men behind them has ever been indicted. Lumumba wrote a last letter from prison.
I often remember a sentence from that letter which said, "To my children whom I'm leaving."
To my children who I'll never see again, I'd like to say Congo has a magnificent future.
Tell them the future of Congo will be magnificent, and that he expects them, as he expects of every Congolese, to do their sacred duty.
There are even people who believe he will return. Now he'll have to come back with 2 front teeth missing.
Today, the average life expectancy in the Congo is 46 years.
You're Europeans. I think this image, and I'm not Jewish, I'm black, recalls the Holocaust. Their bodies were burned. Their body fat was used as fertilizer. Their gold teeth were taken as war booty. And that's called a crime against humanity. It's as simple as that.
We orchestrated it and did it. You know, again, it's that, you know, I love the ruse is always like, we couldn't let this guy Lumumba be in power because he might share the vast wealths of the Congo with the Russians.
With the Russians.
But we are going to kill him because we want the vast share of wealth of the Congo for us.
Yeah.
But I don't believe there was any evidence ever that the guy was predominantly communist or anything like that. He was just looking out for the good of the Congolese people.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's like the Honduran death squad, same principle from last week.
You've got leaders in place, and it takes so long for people to come forward, and that's why things like whistleblower laws are so upsetting. Because when we do something bad, there should be checks and balances. When we're pushing over that line of being good people in general, there should be somebody who speaks out.
And again, kind of like North Korea, how can we possibly point the finger at them and say, look how terrible and evil you are, when we have such a terrible track record? England has such a terrible track record.
Yeah.
You know?
Thank you for watching Thoughts Camera Action. Before you go anywhere, don't forget to click subscribe.